Okay, what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the particular innovations that we're doing at Deakin, and there are three of them that we're particularly focusing on. And I should point out that in fact we're not seeing these as disparate and separate enterprises, but as I'll explain, they tend to fit together in a plan that we've been developing as we've been thinking more and talking about this. In particular, we're focusing on contemporary science in integrated science and pre-service units of study using specialist centres and biolab I'll talk a little bit about, and our students working with those centres. Just as an example of what's going on already at Deakin, and this would be mirrored in a lot of all of the universities, the Institute of Frontier Materials at Deakin is a very high level and very well publicised centre that we have at Deakin, and I point out that it's already doing a lot of work with schools. There's a lot of, for centres like this, there's already a lot of outreach activities and requests from schools to come in, and so that really mirrors Ian Chubb's notion that in fact to excite kids in schools you need to give them access to what's happening at the coalface of exciting research centres. The IFM has an education committee that's already active, and as part of this project what we're looking to do as really a first cab off the rank notion is to use them as a test case, if you like, of how we can actually value add to each other's work in this area. In science, and also there's a huge amount of mathematical modelling that goes on in the centre, in the institute that we can tap into to look at contemporary maths work. In addition to that, we've got, Deakin has associations with Biolab, which is a specialist science centre that has a lot of throughput of schools into the centre and does outreach work as well. And that's around contemporary notions of biotechnology and engineering, biomechanics around human performance is their major focus. And they work with scientists at Deakin to illustrate or to tap into contemporary research in the university, and so in a sense they act as a conduit. So we've been talking with Biolab about how to translate some of their work into teacher education. We've also been talking to GTAC, which is just quite close to here, and that's one thing that we're looking to do through these specialist centres. There'll be sites, I would expect, of significant collaboration between the four universities. I think because GTAC is working with Melbourne very, very closely, for instance. We've also been talking with Museum Victoria about a lot of their outreach work and the work they're already doing in interpreting contemporary anthropology, for instance, and contemporary science into schools. So these people have been into the game for some time. And again, we would expect to be working with the other universities on projects and to develop a model around that. So if you look at some of the things that have been happening around here, you've got science maths research centres, a world-class, doing really exciting research work. They're feeding into specialist science centres, and both of them are doing a lot of work with schools directly. And what the plan is, from our perspective, is where we've got direct contact with schools and students of these centres, we want to interpose the work of pre-service teachers, science maths undergraduate and higher degree bio-research students. So essentially what we're trying to do is to value add that direct contact with looking at getting teachers and students, university students involved, so that we can get a more lasting representation of this sort of work about contemporary science research practice into schools. And so some of the things that we're planning to do is, well, this list here. In order to work with the centres, we're wanting to tap into PhD and undergraduate science students to partner them to develop outreach materials and resources. We see that as being managed by the ReMSTEP team with education specialists, web design specialists to develop and refine those activities, and then trialling those in our teacher education courses, and that will give a natural conduit into schools where we have our teacher education students and science undergraduate students in specialist units that we share between education and the science faculty at Deakin. And so essentially, as we're working on this plan, we have a number of audiences in mind that will really make use of some of the work that's going on, but value add to it and fit and introduce teacher education into the equation.